All right, I'm locked in.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. We love this setup.
It's so good.
Yeah. Max is coming back in a couple of months, and I might not even put this away. I might just force everybody to train on those platforms, and then I want to convince Nick to do some of these with me.
Oh,
he's got such good.
Yeah.
He knows so much about the lifters.
Has he ever been in front of the camera?
Not really.
Yeah. It only takes a little bit of time, I think, to get comfortable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think with this sort of podcast, you actually don't look at the camera.
Yeah. It's not like
I'm not looking over there.
Some people just become aware,
right?
And they think they have to say or be different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Did you ever notice? Did you ever think that when you started any of this?
What, that I had to
like that when you got on camera, like you thought to actively like adopt a persona?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
I never did. I remember the first time I was ever on camera. It was during lockdown, and I decided to try and do some news shows in my spare bedroom. And I set up the camera and everything. And I wanted it to look so nice. I didn't understand about lighting, so I put like a little lamp behind me, and it looked so awful.
You're like black. You're just like a silhouette.
Yeah. No, it was the other way around. I was overexposed and everything. I had such a horrible time looking at the camera and trying to deliver a news show. I basically had one of the larger breakdowns of my professional career, I would say. Spent hours trying to do it, hated it, and I remember saying I'm never going to do it. I'm never going to be on camera again. I hate this. It's so awful.
The irony of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I never wanted to. It was more just there was lockdown, and I had no way of going to competitions to film. So I was I have to somehow become the content.
Yeah.
Which I hated.
I feel like you can make a choice when you first start.
Yeah.
To adopt a persona, or adopt sort of maybe you change the pitch of your voice, or maybe you kind of behave in a different way, and you can notice it with people. And a lot of people on YouTube, sometimes you meet them in person, they're very different.
Right.
And I always remember thinking it was kind of funny, like I would think it'd be awkward to do that.
Yes.
And I've met people that have met me, and be like, oh, you seem exactly like you are on the internet or whatever, YouTube. And it's always been
your persona is so bad.
Yeah,
it'd be a shock if you'd put this on.
Yeah, well, no one would choose this. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But it's always been one of those things I think about, when you watch some content or you watch some stuff, it sometimes sounds like it's so curated and so perfect that it's no one ever speaks like that. They misspeak, or they say something, or they kind of correct themselves. But when you hear that, it feels so genuine. You almost get more engaged.
Right.
But if somebody is just perfect delivery, it feels not right.
I think we do too much now to get away with a fake persona.
Yeah.
It would come out in the commentary during a 64 session.
Right.
A Continental's 64 session, you'd hear the real us if we weren't the real us.
If there ever was one, right?
But if anything, we become more us.
Yeah.
More dry and awful.
Anyways, welcome, guys. We're back with the Weightlifting House, 1 hour of weightlifting talk.
What's up, everybody? That's my new
Today,
persona.
we ask the question. Yeah.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about the previous squad, because we've been to so many competitions, and we went to them in a new capacity as being the commentators. Before the start of this Olympics quad for us commentating, what had we been to internationally? I'd not done many. We had an international comp in the UK. I went to Worlds in Thailand.
Yeah.
I went to Switzerland for the World Cup. I went to Qatar, Rome, and then lockdown.
Yeah.
So I only went to 5 places. And then the 2021 Worlds, I guess.
Right.
After lockdown.
Before the lockdown, I'm trying to think. 2015 Worlds, 2017 Pan Am, 17 Worlds, 18 Pan Ams, 18 Worlds, 19 Pan Ams, 19 Worlds, and then was it Malta, then San Diego.
So quite a lot.
A bunch of meets, and a bunch of other stuff in the middle there, but.
And but going as a commentator is totally different.
Very different.
Also,
yeah.
I'm not just popping pills. This is ibuprofen.
Yeah.
It's anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
It's the good stuff.
Sure.
No, my shoulder hurts, so I want to be able to train again. So I'm just.
USADA's knocking at the door right
yeah,
now.
Yeah, for sure. Then the first one we went to, it was when you came out to Weightlifting House, that's when I got the call from one of the guys saying, would you have any interest in bidding for it? I reckon they were struggling to sell it.
They must have been.
And yeah, because why wouldn't they just do the normal thing? But they came to us and they said, would you be interested? And I was like, I guess so.
That must have been an interesting month for you.
Yes.
Business-wise.
Oh, yeah.
To have so many things come your direction.
Yes.
And to be like, okay, we're going to do all this.
I think there are periods of growth and then consolidation.
Yeah.
In all areas, in training, in business, in relationships. That was a growth. It was just like suddenly you came knocking with the AI.
Yeah.
And then we started doing competitions all within a few months. It was kind of crazy.
It was interesting too, because it almost seemed like it was going to be like a one-off thing. Like, oh, this will be a cool, like, go into this commentary. And it was kind of like a weird, like, I had no idea what it was going to be like. I remember thinking, like, okay, like,
you were there, so I just said, do you want to do the commentary with me?
Yeah.
What if you weren't there?
Lucked into it.
What if I'd have ended up with Josh?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Or it would have been you and Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, what would you think it would have been like to have done all of these alone? How brutal would that be?
When you say
just
the
one
only
person,
commentator.
yeah. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
It'd just be exhausting.
It'd be tough.
It
would be hard. It wouldn't be anywhere near as good.
No, you'd have to be like able to just like hold the thing going every, like, because you it's not like you're trying to constantly talk, but you have to kind of keep the narrative going. And like, if you have no one to lean on at all, any moment, oh my God.
And I think I've gained credibility since doing it, but I don't think I initially had enough to do a one-man show.
So I hadn't listened to a lot of commentary because I think, like we talked about the other day, or maybe it was earlier today, but like the idea that like the commentary was never that memorable.
Not in weightlifting.
And I think our first attempt at it was just it wasn't great. We tried. We didn't really know where we were at.
I remember instantly people liked it, but they were probably the ones who wanted us to do a good job because they liked us.
Yeah. But I would say by the time we were doing Bogota, it felt like it was like
pretty good.
We were nailing a lot of the stuff and kind of going through it.
I mean, that first Tirana, Albania, but it was fun. I mean,
it wasn't terrible.
It was really hot weather, which was kind of cool. There was that coffee shop over the road, and me and you would just get coffee all the time.
There was like a 12-year-old working there for 8 cents a day.
We gave him a massive tip at the end. Yeah. Changed his life.
$4.
Yeah.
Here you go.
There was the meats guy. He was just smoking meats right outside. Yeah. I don't even think anyone knew who he was.
No, he just showed up and meats and beer.
Yeah. And that was good. And that was fun because that was one of the first competitions where we started to interact with the athletes in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, like standing outside in the hot sun, drinking a beer, eating some meat with Hristo Hristov.
Yeah. I have a photo of that, you and him hanging out.
Oh, really?
Cool. Yeah. There was a moment at the end of the whole thing when the Georgian team was skateboarding on a pallet jack.
I totally know. Yeah.
Lasha
went on it.
Was getting on the pallet jack,
and you pump it by moving your arms.
Yeah,
right?
He was pumping it, and then he was trying to like slide out and everything.
Got one up here,
yeah. I remember seeing that and thinking like, oh yeah, like they're just regular like big kids, you know.
I feel like commentary gives you some cool access.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you went back and talked to him and asked about the 500.
Oh yeah.
That was an interesting event too, because that was the first one we did, but we had people in the back, so we had that kind of, what did he do?
Yeah, we had Nicholas who used to work for us. That was his first competition, and stuck him in the back room with the camera to film. Yeah, but then also basically gave him a job of sending us info.
Yeah, that was kind of neat because that was like one of the first times I had ever in a commentary in a session like thought about like talk about what the warm-ups are. Yeah, because you normally wouldn't. You just be like, oh, here they come for this. But to like kind of reference how he missed 2 lifts in the back.
Right.
This is to me, I think personally, out of all of the stuff that we've brought to commentary, that's one of the things that I think is novel and elevates it a lot. Yeah. Because when you kind of see a guy come out and you have a little bit of context, like he hasn't made anything but 160 and he's opening at 191, you're like, oh shit. And it just adds that much more suspense to the lift.
And it's one of the only sports where there's measurable relevance of what happens before the race. It's kind of like, you know, when you watch a marathon, it's like you only see the final mile.
Right.
And you don't know who's going to come out when you get to the final mile. You don't know who's going to be in the lead.
Yeah.
But you need to be told beforehand, this person's in the lead, this person looks exhausted, this person was in the lead but fell back. And that's what the back room gives you.
Yeah.
But no one cares in the 100 meters, like Bolt's like 5, 10 meter sprints to warm up. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. Yeah.
And like, but it's so relevant.
Preliminary qualifying too is kind of like, wow.
Right.
They might be holding back, or it's just kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And do you remember in the first few, this was one of my ideas that I thought would actually last and be something we would do, is picture-in-picture with us.
Oh, yeah, that was
we had the little camcorder,
the
webcam, and in the corner of the screen for the first few sessions, it was me and you.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I thought people would like that because the reaction side of the internet was growing. Yeah. And people liked seeing a quote-unquote expert or whatever reacting to something amazing. So I thought if we're there visually being responsive and like, wow. Yeah. But it very quickly, I realized, like, if we want to be professional, we can't do that.
Yeah. It doesn't...
or if we're there, we got to... But the moment the athlete stands on the platform, we've got to be gone.
It doesn't add to the competition. No. And it's one of those things where it's like, you almost think of it as like, is it kind of trying to shift the attention to us? Yeah, yeah. And it wasn't, I don't think it was intentional. No, it's just kind of like, you know, like UFC kind of does that. Yeah, they'll like show, you know, Joe Rogan or whatever. But it's like, that's a different sort of level where it's like the sport is more broad than that.
I mean, I could imagine if there was a good camera and there's a 2-minute break in between a lift and they're not showing anything in the back room, and we say, and it's known, like it's cutting to us and we're going to now explain what's happening, that would make sense just to keep keep the movement going.
I could see that being kind of interesting if we had like a, you know, if we almost like, maybe we spun around in the chairs, put the camera on us, and then you have the competition in the back.
Or we run onto the platform so that we can keep the same camera rolling. And so we run in front of it, and we just like pop up from underneath.
Run onto the platform with the mics and just talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lasha has just set a snatch world record. Only just, but he does make it.
Red bar's now 184. Solid.
You can't drop your back knee any lower than that. Become the number 2 ranked 102 in the world if he makes this lift. Gets under the bar.
Look at that save. What a fight.
He holds it.
How would you feel about, do you think there'll ever be a time where you'd add a...
Pre and post show?
No, not that. Oh. Like add like a correspondent into the mix.
If there's... This sounds really like... I don't know what the word is. If there's somebody who can do that. Yeah. There just aren't... Because it's such a small sport, it's not like you can look online and be like, okay, who are the top 10 people who are talking about what's happening in weightlifting? Yeah. It's like, there isn't anyone. Yeah. So you have to, someone has to do, you know, I've now employed a bunch of people, and a lot of them are just like, they were doing things on their own. And I looked at it and I was like, that looks really good. Yeah. Do you want to work with us? Because we can reach more people or whatever, and it's more sustainable. And until those people show up, I don't know how to find them. So if someone is a great reporter with a man with a...
The man on the street.
A man on the street type of thing.
It is hard.
Interviewing people at AO finals and making cool videos of it.
Right, yeah.
I'll probably will ask you to come out to a competition.
It's weird. It's almost like, most sports have something like that. Yeah. Because you'd go and interview a player. Yeah. And the players expect that. But weightlifting doesn't have that, because a lot of these players, a lot of the athletes are just very like, they're in a government funded program. Yeah. And so it's just like a job. And it's not like they're they probably see themselves as like professional athletes, but that's a different world than what we would think of as like a professional athlete in the West, where it's like you're expected to do news, press conferences and news and this and that, where here it's kind of like you do your lifting and you're out, you're back to the hotel.
Yeah. Had you done any commentary? Were you nervous before that first one?
I was a little nervous because I was kind of not sure like what to expect.
You and I had done a grand total of 0 minutes of practice.
Oh yeah, we just showed up.
I kept thinking to myself, like, at some point we'll put on some sessions of old and we'll sit there and we'll do fake commentary. Yeah. And I think we agreed, like, yeah, we'll do that.
We should do that, yeah.
But we didn't do anything. We didn't even decide, like, am I going to take the lead on the intros? Which I obviously do.
Yeah.
We didn't decide any of that.
No, we just
went
showed
live.
Up. Yeah. I think that first one, I remember spending more energy and attention talking about like the technique and stuff.
Yes.
And I remember it being like...
We're way more technique driven.
Okay, yeah. But as you kind of get into it, I feel like now we've kind of converged to be like similar. You definitely are the play-by-play. Like you've got everyone in front of you. You also know way more like the lifters' names and everything. And so it's like, it almost feels like we're in a similar sort of like commenting on what's happening, but not necessarily like one guy's going to sit there and talk about like how many refrigerators this guy's lifting. And the other guy's going to talk about like, whatever the 3 different countries on the platform or something.
Right.
They feel it's like we're more in the same type of, like we're saying the same type of things.
And then the next one was we flew to Bahrain for the Asian Champs, which was quite hot.
That was a very different experience. Bahrain was really...
I don't even know where you were staying at that competition. I remember...
Oh, it was in the same hotel as Dan.
The Ibis.
Yeah, we're at the Ibis.
Oh, okay, so that's where you guys were. And Cody was there.
Yeah.
Nick, I had him in the training hall hotel. And then I got put up in a nice flat in a block from ESSAC.
Oh, it was just like everyone was all over.
We were all in different places.
Yeah. That one was like different because it was just like it was like the whole competition was sold on like Lou Dalen and like these lifters.
The quality of lifters was lower.
Yeah.
But the actual like venue, though it was small,
that was very nice.
The lighting and our first one at the European Champs is about the worst I've ever seen the European Championships look.
Yeah, it was. The irony of that is it was better than almost any of the Pan Ams I'd been to.
Really?
The Pan Am meets. Remember Worlds in Bogota?
Yeah.
Was like that's a Worlds, and that was better than that was like.
That was not good.
Yeah, I mean that was not like amazing, and like Pan Ams in some of those cases are like open air venues, and it's like. Just a bunch of platforms and there's local meets I've been to that have higher production value in some of those.
And that Worlds that December in Bogota, that was I was really pleased actually. I don't think I've ever really articulated this, but I'm pleased that we started off with continentals because it made us. That was the norm, and then we went to a Worlds and it was like Christmas.
Yeah,
it's like every session. Yeah, you've got the first session. You've got. All these amazing athletes from all the continents. Yeah. All the A sessions were so good that it was way more enjoyable in terms of, every bit of commentary was so exciting.
That was a great venue, too, in Bogota because you had...
The training halls right there.
It was, like, so accessible, so easy. Yeah. You could go just bounce back and forth. Everything was in one place.
Do you know how dark it was in the training hall there?
Yeah, it was very poorly lit.
Yeah.
It was
you get used to it, but you'd go outside. It was essentially like a big... aircraft hangar type thing.
Yeah.
You'd go outside and it was just blinded by the lights.
Yeah. That was an interesting place. That was an interesting meet. It was also one of the first meets that I feel like there was a truly solid fan base. Like the Colombian fans were huge. There was a lot of audience participation.
Was a great fan base, yeah.
Colombia did super well, obviously, and it was like that was cool to see. It was also one of the meets where you see like you said, like the whole world all there, and like the quality of lifting was just suddenly elevated way more.
I think one of the interesting things is that the rate that the world records began to fall throughout the quad.
Oh yeah,
increase. Like at that one, we had you know, we had Lee Farbin, I remember, hit 175 clean and jerk, and
Yep.
Lee Dayin didn't do anything. He just won. There were maybe 2 world records.
Didn't Carlos do a clean and jerk?
Yes, 221.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe 220. I don't know what it was. Yeah. And then, you know, by the World Cup most recently, we had like 16 world records.
Yeah, that was
in
crazy.
one session. You know, and before that, it's like even at the Asian Champs, the Continentals were starting to pick up 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah, just kept ramping up.
But that
up,
Bogota, like we mentioned earlier, Toma hit the world record.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Toma was on form. Lee Dayin won in the 81s. Do you remember there was a guy called Regipov?
Yeah.
Who was an 81 Turkmenistan lifter who went for the 209 at the time world record at 81.
Yep.
If he made it, he'd have beaten Lee Dayin, and he cleaned it and like almost made the jump.
Yeah. What happened to him?
He got popped like a week later.
Oh.
Yeah. And at that competition, Zacharias Bonat also got popped. The
Oh,
really
right.
jacked 81 Dominican guy.
Mhm.
And he was there in the training hall. I remember it was really weird. It was kind of awkward.
Oh, after he got popped?
He was there and got popped halfway through training.
That's where you're gonna
he
go,
was just
right?
there. Yeah, he was there already.
You got to sit at the hotel.
Yeah.
Sit in the corner, time out.
That was also a competition where I just had this belief that Rahmat was going to set a world record from the B session, even though he'd never done a world record
Yeah,
before.
remember we ran to do the
We
commentary?
ran over
Yeah,
and picked up on the live stream on the B session.
yeah.
I just jumped in and did it, and he hit it, and I was so pleased that we'd done that.
Yeah,
Because
that was
we'd
cool.
seen him at the Asian Champs in Bahrain, which I almost have no memory of.
Yeah.
But I remember he did something like 190, 195, and then just like declined
Mhm.
or something on his third attempt. But the 195 looked so easy, we were just all thinking, he's got 200.
Yeah.
He can just do 200 for
Yeah.
sure.
That's funny. I remember him there. And I
And
remember
we didn't even know who he was.
Yeah, I remember thinking I knew of his dad.
Really?
Yeah, because his dad had like a famous
That famous photo?
on the Iron Mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome photo.
And I remember thinking, oh, that's his dad.
Yeah.
Like,
And his dad started showing us pictures of himself as an athlete
yeah,
and that sort of thing. Yeah, that was cool.
yeah. Out of all the meets so far, maybe out of all the meets you've ever been to, what's the, well, let's say so the ones you've done commentary on, what's the best one you've seen?
Thailand.
Okay, yeah, best
Most
competition.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
the
say
World
that
Cup.
too. It was the most ecstatic for sure.
It was not only was it the best, the highest level I've commentated at, like
Yeah.
in terms of like the world records, just the
Yeah.
level was insane. The stakes were the highest.
Yeah.
The stakes felt way higher than winning a world championships.
It's probably higher than the Olympics in all reality
Yeah,
for some.
yeah.
Because if they win, I mean, risky, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the stakes were higher there for him. That he's going to probably
Yeah.
win the Olympics. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what a wild,
Yeah, these guys had to perform
Meat.
so well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which one do you think was run the best? Like from
Armenia,
yeah, I would agree with that.
Europeans,
Europe-
23.
23 Europeans was like,
David is just amazing. David Kipchidze.
yeah, he
the
kills
Georgian.
it. He
He's
knocks
so
it
good at
apart.
running shows.
I would say that the other thing about it was that like Armenia was so, it just like, it was finally like you went to a place where like weightlifting's a big sport.
It felt like it got what it deserved.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it got that in a couple sessions in Colombia, like Yeni Alvarez.
yeah. And
But-
Bulgaria.
Yeah, where it was like, it was packed. Actually, Bulgaria was good.
Yeah,
I mean, the running of it was a little bit tougher
Yeah.
for media, but it looked good. But yeah, I mean, Armenia, when you have like 8,000 Armenians and it's packed and there's 100 rows vertically
yeah.
of Armenians yelling,
that was crazy.
that is, and they get behind a lot of people. Like they got behind Carlos, even though he's not
Yeah.
Armenian.
Yeah,
They got behind Lasha, even though he was competing against Lalian.
yeah. It's that's where I think you can appreciate the fact that the Armenian fan base is like they're like weightlifting fans.
Yeah, they wanted to see Lasha do something big.
Yeah, they were down
They
for
cheered
big
him.
lists, which was
Yeah.
cool.
And I like how we've picked up a few. We've made a few people who are lower in the rankings favorites. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Sargis.
Sargis.
Like he now interacts with us on the platform. And then he came and asked me afterwards, why do you call me the Sargent? Or he was with his teammate and they
Yeah.
said, why do you call him the Sargent? And we said, oh, just because his name is Sargis. And then they said, oh, he actually, he used to be in the military, so we thought maybe you knew that.
Yeah.
But no, we had no idea. It's just
That's
he was
too
Sargent.
funny. He's one of the most
Armenia's answer to Mr. Bean.
Yeah, he's one of the most fun lifters to watch. And then like you're watching him a lot of times, and then all of a sudden in Bulgaria, he walks on the stage and he looks right at us.
And he winks, doesn't he?
Yeah, though he did the lift. Then he drops a bar and quickly glances over and gives us both a wink. And he's looking right at us. Like it was just like such a rewarding, like, yeah. Like,
yeah.
He we're like, yeah, he knows that we kind of, gas him up in the commentary and like.
Oh yeah.
It's not mocking at all. It's we generally really enjoy the guy. It's funny that like he was into it, which was cool.
And if he was missing all the time, that would be one thing. But
he makes lifts.
He's still in the sport, and he's still surpassing Masters world records.
Yeah. God, he would destroy people in Masters.
Or Toychyev. Like Toychyev, the first time, we got him pretty. We gassed him up a bit.
Yeah.
And he started to know that. And now he jokes around with us all the time. But there was that one competition, I can't remember what it was, where he came out. He did a different type of clean and jerk every time. It was like power clean and split jerk, clean and power jerk.
Yeah.
And then I think he like tried a squat jerk.
Yeah, he tried something at the end. I remember that.
It was just like...
That was
so
in Bahrain,
funny.
right?
That might have been Bahrain, yeah.
And then he was in the lobby. He was in the restaurant. He must have eaten...
I mean, we were there sort of late. He came down at like 11 p.m. after the whole team had gone to bed, and he stacked up cakes.
5 kilograms of cake.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just...
Easily, yeah.
He's a big man, but he was just going crazy.
He's large.
Yeah. He's funny too. We saw him at the raffle at the World Cup.
Oh, he had so much fun.
And I think it was Cody and I saw him, and we were kind of looking at him, and he started giggling, and he had like
50 raffles.
50 raffle tickets.
Yeah. And then he took Cody's, and one of those ones he won the top prize, and he was like pointing at her and laughing, and he said, he was like, "This is all valuable." He pointed at his teammates who had actual medals. He said, "This is their medals," and then he pointed to he had like a water cannon, and he was like, "This is my medal." And he was saying that he was going to just sell it on the streets and make some money, and then just take it home and just have more money.
Yeah. Yeah, in Turkmenistan. You weren't in Turkmenistan?
No, I wasn't.
Turkmenistan's a different place.
Yeah, I would love to go there because it's such an interesting and unknown place, and I'm sure there's a really interesting history. But everybody who I've spoken to has spoken about how not great place to live it is if you are from there.
No, it did not seem like a place you'd want to be.
No. But then, like, I love the fact that we know you feel so. It's such a rich experience going to these competitions and knowing, like, I have, quote unquote, friends from Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
Or Mongolia. Or
Bektalut was just in California. He's in Northern California. I kind of almost want to hope. I hope he's there still.
Rasulbekov, yeah.
Yeah.
The man who always hits 217. Yeah. Every competition, it's 217.
He's a guy who
143, 217.
He looks like if he'd been born in the United States, he'd be like a fullback. He just is so big and solid, like, and powerful. Obviously, like you just think he'd be playing, D1 football maybe.
Right. And then you got Emil Moldodosov, the smaller teammate at 89. I love getting to know these people and seeing like the Mongolian team or interacting with the North Korean team. Just people who you'd never have interaction with. Yeah. Yeah. And, you see the South Koreans and you get to know what they're like amongst themselves. Yeah. They're joking around and they've all got like really nice clothes and then you see another team and they turn up, they look super rugged and they're gritty lifters. Yeah. Like it all makes sense. Yeah. But everybody's so nice. I've never met someone, I don't think, at a competition who I've thought, you are unfriendly.
Yeah, some people,
At first, Simon Martirosyan, but now he's actually like winks and laughs.
Yeah, I think they just need to kind of warm up and like, obviously when they see us and they see everybody a lot and they kind of know like, oh, those guys are here, like they know, whatever, and it's not the kind of thing where it's like they probably don't feel exploited. No, you guys are like taking photos, but then like you don't give them anything in return. Like I'm sure if any of them asked for a picture, you'd give it to them. And
that's part of what we did as a way to try and build
relationships.
Yeah, after every competition, Nick sends a link to each of the athletes who we have good photos of. Not every athlete, but like
That's cool.
Especially if there's an athlete who wears anything from us,
Yeah.
we'll send them all of the photos of them, whether they are or aren't wearing something.
That's cool.
It's just like a nice touch point to be like,
Yeah.
we saw you wearing it. Here's some really cool photos of you.
Yeah.
And then you see it, like all the weightlifters over the course of like 2 weeks start posting them.
Yeah.
We don't put logos on them. We just give them the photos. But
I've seen that. And
Yeah,
you,
it's
I
nice.
mean, you can tell it's a weightlifting house photo. It
That's
just
good.
has a great look.
okay,
I
that's
think
very nice. I always worry, like,
Oh no, I saw.
are we losing recognition here
No
that we
way.
could be getting? But
I saw Sulfrid posted,
yeah.
and
People
I,
like Sol,
I
yeah.
saw the photos, and the second I saw it, I was like, "Oh, it's weightlifting
Yeah,
house."
yeah.
And then I realized there was no watermark or anything
Yeah.
on it.
Oh, that's so.
But then
so
I
good,
scrolled
yeah.
down, and she tagged it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, this is." It
That's
just has
good.
a very distinct look, which is really nice.
That's cool.
But I think,
Yeah, Tristan said that to me when I was asking him when he did some reels and he didn't put logos on,
yeah,
and I was like, "We've got to have it," and he was like, "Nike doesn't put a Nike logo
that's a good point.
when they do a reel," and I was like, "Yeah, but they're Nike." He's like, "Yeah, but we have to
You have to.
act like that and know that we can create brand recognition without a logo."
Oh wow.
And so I was really nervous about it. So like half the reels do, half don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I think you can always tell the style of all the different media
I
companies.
think you can, yeah.
Yeah, it's distinct enough.
Yeah.
And like
I agree.
Tristan has a very like unique style. You can pick it out. You didn't necessarily know. I'm sure if you sat there and broke it down, or if I don't know
Particularly
enough.
his editing. The
Yeah.
way he edits the reel is very obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his for sure.
And you can tell if I've done it, which is, I don't do them very often, but we're different. You can just
Yeah.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say it.
It's cool though. Like you said, it's funny. You don't even think about setting out to go do this, and like
No.
your whole focus, like in any of these things, any of these businesses that we start or do, it's like your objective is not necessarily, you're not trying to get to the objective of like, oh, I want to like create a business that makes money for the
No.
purpose of that. Because if you only had that goal, you would just sort of shop around for like, what's the smart, like
Yeah.
easiest work, highest return on investment, and most likely to succeed.
You just wouldn't even enter weightlifting.
Yeah, none of the weightlifting would never enter any of those check boxes. But then you end up in these places where, you know, you go to competition after competition after competition simply because you started out with some offer to like do this Europeans, and now there's you're in a place where you've got this, you
Like
know,
an app or something.
yeah, an app or a media company, this
Yeah.
whole thing that's built up around it.
It's so funny, isn't it?
And it's like, you never think about that, but then also along the way, like you're talking about these athletes, you just meet people
Yeah.
and you're in the mix so much that you don't even really like lift your head up to look around and be like, oh, what have I done with my life?
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh yeah, like you know all these people by name, and
Yeah.
like the, you know, whatever 25-year-old Seb
Yeah. Yeah.
would ever even conceive, or whatever 22-year-old Seb would conceive of any of this. Like,
Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to. I would have been shocked. I think we said this when we went out for dinner the other day. I think I would have like cried. I would have broken down if
Yeah.
I'd have found out what I was going to be doing in 5 years. I'd have
Yeah.
been so excited, and not excited, just been like, wow, I can't believe all of this work that I'm doing is actually going to pay off.
yeah,
I used to think, when I first started, I used to think I just would love it if I could get to the point where I sell 10 pairs of straps a day, and I can spend a couple of hours putting them in packages,
yeah,
writing names on them. Every day I'll walk to the post office with my rucksack, and I'll send them all out, and I'll feel so happy, and then I'll go write about the news, and like, but that can't happen.
That's
Like, how would
impossible.
why would 20 people want to buy straps with my name on it? Not my name, but like the name.
Yeah,
my name.
yeah.
But that was like the goal. I was like, can you imagine? And I used to think like, could I ever have someone join me just
Yeah.
so I had some company?
Yeah, that's funny.
And then you just think, oh, I'm going to go for it. But it's almost like I totally believed that it could all happen. But at the same time, you don't really know.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know if this can ever happen.
Yeah, it's a very weird space. And until you've done this kind of thing, like until you've like started a business,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll call it a startup, right? Like
Yeah.
until you've been in that universe, it's such a weird like perspective to have. And a lot of it is like you have to be very pragmatic about like just doing the thing regardless of like well, this is like the most obvious thing to do. Like, yes, say yes, and then figure it out after that. Or like, you know, bring on this person or bring on that person or do whatever it is. And even though those decisions are sometimes like, growth is, I think, the scariest phase, because when you have like a consolidation, things are going well, and like your company or whatever it is you're doing is just kind of like settling into a place where it's stabilizing.
Yeah.
When you're growing, it's like the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like you're not necessarily...
Systems are failing.
Right. And systems are expanding, but they may not be expanding as fast as like revenue or something. So you have like this scary phase of like, you know, early on, like, okay, you're going to order bars or something.
Yeah.
Like that has to be almost like a terrifying thought, like investing a huge amount of money at the time into something like bars, having no real good idea if it's going to work.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe like a pre-order or something. So you try some strategies like that, but like it's still not like you're taking on all this risk. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like people could just cancel or do this or whatever, you know, it could all fall apart. And it's like,
Yeah, we made a decision at the end of 2020 that we'd never take pre-orders again.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
Yeah.
Even though we had to do it as a way to fund growth.
Yeah.
And to purchase products, we had to take pre-orders. And we needed it for a while. We did that for a year or two, but got to a point where it's just like, no, can't do that. Yeah. Can't do that. It's just too many things can go, like once you've taken a customer's money, and they're giving it to you because they trust you, that they're going to get this great product, you then have so much responsibility. And if things... Because it was at that time during COVID where there was massive worldwide shipping problems.
Yeah.
The cost of containers like 10x'd. Everything was delayed by months. And it was just like, wow, we've got all these people's money and we don't have the product.
And just,
And eventually everybody got it. But like...
Yeah, it's scary.
It was horrible. We just said, we're going to grow slower.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. And we had to stop. I mean, how do you... Because you basically became famous in weightlifting, or well-known in weightlifting, working with people, but not necessarily running your own thing.
Yeah.
And then way more recently, it's like you've undertaken to basically, I'm going to create the best training system possible for weightlifters. You have hired a bunch of extremely talented engineers and coders.
Yeah.
You've invested, I don't even want to say...
Too much money.
More than I think any weightlifter would believe could be invested into something like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, 1.0 has done fantastically well, and we've got a really large online team, but 2.0, which comes out sooner, is going to be... You know, I always think of the meme where it's like, you know, it's like the guy... It's like the moon, and then it's like the sun, and then it's like the solar system, and then it's the person who's like encompasses the solar system. It's like how things... I always think 2.0 is that last one, where like the difference is just insane.
Yeah.
How have you found the transition from, you know, working with people to I'm now in charge, I'm hiring people?
That's a weird... It's a weird space because you have to start...
It's since I've known you. You've done it.
Yeah. It's like just being the person who shows up, and that's what I am with a commentary, which I very much enjoy, that sort of feeling of like show up and do the commentary
and
the
contract sorted.
And getting my work done during the day. But like that, I mean, you know how it is managing people, and like you have to be in this place where you're able to make choices that are like this has to work for everybody, because if this doesn't work, then there's people that depend on me, and they're gonna, you know, whatever, they're not gonna have a job or something, or this won't work for them. But also like it's the ability to manage, like extract, I guess you'd say extract value from people, but really extract like people's abilities and like get them to like, can we get this person to rise to the level that's just above where they are at now? Yeah. So you can produce the things you're trying to produce, because it's very easy to have a team And, you know, the old saying is like, you know, you can't make a baby in 1 month with 9 women, right? Like you can't
you can try.
Yeah, you can't get 9 women pregnant and have a baby in a month. Yeah, yeah.
But no one has succeeded.
And so it's just like some things just go at a certain speed.
Yeah.
And it's easy to be in a spot where you have the belief that like, oh, everyone's working as hard as they are, everyone's doing what they need to do. And like there's a lot of tasks and things that just aren't happening. Mm-hmm. And so like a huge part of this kind of stuff is just being able to manage systems and people.
Yeah.
And I've found that the biggest thing I've learned in any of this stuff, and even looking at your stuff, like it's so much more about building, like the idea of a business is a very efficient group of people that can produce something that's more valuable than the money that goes in.
Yeah, it's more valuable than the idea or anything. It's just...
Yeah, and it's like having all of this sorted and having someone like, let's say, Nick, who can basically take on the role of like discovering products and the suppliers and all this stuff. Yeah. Like he's producing more value than he costs. It has to, otherwise the business wouldn't work. Yeah. And so like a huge part of business is about building really efficient systems that make sure that everybody is you're getting the most possible value out of every employee. Yeah. Because if you don't, then you're just dragging people along or the whole thing is going to fall apart or it's just not going to work. So...
And I think something that I've realized, and I sometimes critique myself over, is the culture is basically a reflection of you.
Yeah, oh yeah,
like
very much.
You can sometimes I think like, why don't I ever stand on a chair and give a really like fiery speech, and at everyone's like and then in that situation everyone will be fired up and they're going to work super hard and everything. And it's like, it's not who I am. It's just so weird. I would never do that. Yeah. And so we're all kind of like low key because that's sort of how I am. There's a lot of joking in the office. There's a lot of like, should we have a cup of tea and chat about it? Type of stuff. And, you know, sometimes I think, oh, would it be cool if I could be like that kind of boss? But it's the same as how we started this podcast. You can't have a persona. No. You just have to be you.
But at the same time, like you think about someone like Nick, who's like the thing that you bring, maybe I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but like you do bring this passion for it. Yeah, true. That you can see like he has and Cody has. Yeah. And like, you know, these people have like a very, and like, you know, Tristan, right? Like they definitely have a thread of you in them that was maybe there before, but whatever, like you guys connect. True, yeah. And so it's like, if someone really cares about it, like that's almost more important than anything else. Yeah. Because if they really care, they're going to try to do it the right way. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I've found that I struggled in the beginning thinking that it's about like showing up and sort of like, okay, great people come into the room and then they just do it. Yeah. And I started realizing like one of my strongest skills was coaching. And I wasn't applying that to the business. I was not like, as a coach, you would stand there and demand something, but not in like a harsh way. You say, it's got to be perfect. Like, we got to do it this way. Yeah. Like, that clean was fine, but it's not good.
But also you'd be like, how does it feel? Yeah. And, you know, what do you think is wrong? How do you think we can fix that?
Yeah, it's always asking solutions.
How can we fix this weakness?
Yeah, and so like realizing that, like there's been more.
That's so interesting.
For me to kind of be like, okay, it's about coaching. It's about finding where people are struggling, finding where they're struggling outside of maybe the work, where it's like somebody's getting exhausted because they're just doing too much. How can I alleviate that? You know, how can I go into a meeting with somebody and crack a joke first to break the tension so that when we get in there and I say, hey, like this has got to be done tomorrow. Like, like just make it happen. Like you don't have this sense of like overbearing and pushing down on somebody, but you can also be like elevate the standard and say, we need to get to here, you know? So it's been different. It's definitely like been a huge learning experience for me, you know?
I think something recently last year or two, that I've really found very helpful is giving responsibility to people. Yeah. And then they actually like that more.
Oh yeah.
And they rise to it. And
Yeah.
it's like, saying to Cody, like, Weightlifting House TV, in terms of the day-to-day running, making sure is Alex making the edit on time?
Yeah.
Are there any problems with billing? Putting a post in the community, reaching out to Miso to do a video, all these sorts of things. Like, you are responsible for that now.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have time. We can have meetings. You can run things by me, but that's you.
Yeah.
Then suddenly they're like, this is my domain. I own this thing.
Yeah.
And they write. And like, for ages we said to Nick, I'll try and do more product stuff. But we gave him too much other stuff that he had to do. He could never do it. And then eventually he was just like, I'm going to transform this.
Yeah.
And now he's just like so good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Just reaching out to different manufacturers, trying things, testing it. Like, he's got a little army of testers now in the UK.
Nice.
And whenever products come, he sends them out to them and they provide feedback.
Yeah. I feel like
that's so clever. I would never have come up with that.
Yeah, that to me is like, it's such a unique thing. But like you said, it's all comes from the top. It's like, you see this in weightlifting.
Maybe, yeah.
Like you see it in weightlifting, like, these teams where the head coach is, Georgi Hasanidze versus like, whatever, like some other club or some other team where they're just like a little more loose. Yeah, I don't want to be, but like, it's like you can just see like that he's like diligent. Yeah. Everyone's on it. And then there's other places where just more disjointed. Yeah. And like, maybe they just don't have as big a structure inside the country to support it. But it's so much a matter of like, to be successful at any of these things, it's not, no one's going to do the whole thing in one shot. Yeah. And so every decision you make, just like all these commentaries, it's like you start off and it's more important that you just show up to Tirana, no idea what you're doing, media pack in hand, microphones, and just like we know 2 or 3 things. We love weightlifting. Yeah. We know a lot about it. Yeah. And we've got some information in front of us. So like let's just go. Yeah. Yeah. And you do that and like, okay, it's like a 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. The next one you're like, okay, we can do this one thing better. And then one thing better the next time. I think the first one we did, there wasn't even like a mixer.
No, we didn't we hadn't bought a mixer.
It was just like very.
Do you remember we were operating on like a weird, just like web page, which would have an embedded live video. Right. And then people would log in and it's just a bare page with a video. Yeah. It looked so bad. Yeah. And now you've got like an app, or you can watch it on like.
Now you can watch it on TV.
What's it called, like Fire Stick or whatever it is. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, but it's like, it's just little pieces, right? It's like everything else and all of this stuff is just like building a little, fun, really. A little piece. Yeah.
It's like training.
Yeah. Just one little thing.
Like when you go to the gym, when you snatch, your like movement kind of thing, like error bar is like enormous. Like from what one lift might look like to the next, you just got to go in and snatch. It doesn't matter what you do. And then you get to the point where it's like, what you do is very important. It's very specific. And only this type of training is going to give you progress. But at the start, like, just do stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Get in and start and
bend your legs.
Like, you'll figure out snatching. Yeah. If you don't have like necessarily a coach who's like, pointing you in every direction, you'll figure it out if you spend time trying, but not doing things stupid, not like overdoing it all and just like, being a maniac, but like, work at it, watch yourself, work at it, like just kind of little pieces. Yeah. And then at some point you just start to like grasp how to snatch.
So give me if you don't mind, I hope people don't mind this either. I love this sort of thing. Give me like a day in the life of the AI team. Like,
oh my gosh,
what time are you guys getting in? Where are you going? Who's coming in when? What does like?
So I'll wake up at like you're an early board. 6:30.
Oh, okay. I thought you were up a little earlier. That's still pretty early. That's pretty good.
I'll get up at 6:30 and then I'll go to the gym like around 7.
Which is where the offices are.
Yeah, so we rented a bigger space. We have the gym in the basement or in the first floor, and then above it is the office. That's cool. So now I just sit in the office and I'll start doing, like, I'll catch up on stuff I have to do personally, remote coaching and stuff.
How long does it take to get to the office?
Oh, like.
This is like a segment from like a Chris Williams podcast where I'm like, give me like your morning routine.
Yeah, I'll wake up and have two coffees, and then
throw them in my face.
Yeah, and then eat breakfast. Then like a 6-minute drive to the office. Yeah, yeah. I'm at the office, and then I'll do the whatever like work I have to do as a coach. Sometimes I'll coach in the morning. So then by like
an actual class.
Yeah, like so like 9 o'clock I'll be back in the office.
Well, you've done a lot then.
And then so then at 9 I'll come back in and I'll either do any kind of calls I have with people, like clients or whatever. I'll check any of the our team management stuff, like ClickUp or Slack.
What is ClickUp?
ClickUp's I guess like a project management software.
It's like Asana or something.
Yeah, so we use it to manage software development.
Okay.
So I'll go in and look at whatever's going on in there, all the tasks people have.
And that sort of stuff only works if everyone buys into using it.
Everyone has to.
So otherwise, it's such a problem.
Yeah. So what we'll do is I'll do that, and then.
And is no one else in by then?
No. So then.
Really?
Well,
these lazy engineers.
I'll explain why here in a minute. So then.
You guys are up late.
Around. 9 to noon, I'll do whatever other stuff I have to do, kind of finish up.
And no one's in?
Not yet. So I'll do data labeling. So I'll get on and I'll start labeling snatch videos, clean and jerk videos, exercise videos, and
just so that when
segmenting what each phase or what a portion of a lift is or what's going on.
And that's so that when the form check feature comes out,
so
it's just more and more accurate. Like you're feeding it all of the initial data.
Yeah. So what we do is we will label video data to tell you what's happening in a video, and then that data. Cool.
So you'll say this athlete has jumped forward.
Yeah,
and the knees have not. The knee bend is wrong or something.
Yeah,
and then it learns
exactly. And then we take that. What we're doing is building the data set bigger. So then we take this data set and train an AI model to recognize what's happening in the video. But I'll do that because it's that's something that is very just monotonous and boring. Once you kind of figure it out, it's just you can go through a video in 2 minutes, a minute, and just bang them out. But I think any spare time I have to do more of those, if over a 3-week time I get another 100 videos into the data set, it's a benefit for us. So I see it as that. Then let's say around noon, 10, maybe 11:30 noon, Kush comes in.
Okay. Kush is good.
Kush is very good.
He's extremely good engineer.
Yeah, Kush was a cybersecurity, an AI guy at Meta who got laid off.
One of my best friends is cybersecurity. Well, I think it's he basically does the job of he tries to break on behalf of the company. He tries to break into their systems to expose holes in their
I think it's called InfoSec technically, but we always call it cybersecurity.
Yeah.
But so he'll come in and then he'll brief me. Because he'll stay up till midnight or 2 a.m. and communicate with a team we have that's remote. So he'll be on a different time zone there. So he's up really late, communicating with them. So he briefs me on what they did the day before, and so then we talk about that, and then he and I will just kind of catch up on where we're at, what we're doing.
Interesting.
And then
how long is that general chat?
20, 30 minutes.
Okay.
We try to keep the meetings kind of short.
Yeah.
And then he and I will work, usually during the day, work until maybe an hour or two, kind of just talking about bigger ideas or what we should, how should we do this? How should we do that? So then we'll look at maybe a specific page in the app and say, okay, we've adopted this model, this idea of we want to be cautious to try and believe we're right and be oh, the button should go here and it should be this color. It has to be more fluid in that we know generally what we're trying to get to. Let's let people's experience and user experience allow us to iterate and get to that.
So build the thing that allows you to change colors and button placements quick.
Yeah, and build it in a way where if people are having trouble somewhere, we should find the solution for them and build what the actual user is wanting, even though we might think it's cool to have this page this way or that way. So we'll talk about that kind of stuff, design stuff, and then he spends a bunch of time either he's doing a lot of heavy lifting now because he's so much more experienced than everyone else, but he'll just build whatever stuff needs to be built in the back end. So he does a lot more back end stuff. He'll build he just recently worked on changing the architecture for the entire calendar. So in the new app, you'll have access to a full calendar you could populate with programming. You could modify or adjust it.
So you can put loads of different programs in it.
Yeah, so you can
run
out
6 months or something.
The original app, you can run a program and they're all just named.
Yeah.
Now you can run multiple programs at the same time. So you could run a weightlifting program.
Yeah.
And then also run a different type of arm bodybuilding type program.
Oh, and the two would integrate into one.
Well, it would look like two programs because you could remove the arm one and be give me the leg blaster program or give me the pec program, right? Or you could have two weightlifting programs running simultaneously and turn one off, turn one on,
Why?
Well, let's say
Why
you
would you-
switched programs for a reason. Like you're doing a program that's 20 weeks, and then you have to you decide to turn it off and do some other program for a few weeks. You wouldn't have to delete it.
Okay,
it could just exist on the back end.
Yeah.
And so it's more like it allows us to also do things later, which is like combine different things. You have like a running program and a weightlifting program.
Right. Okay, that's cool.
Right. So we've built it in this way that
big
it's
future
very
stuff.
scalable, so you can add in other types of things.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think other sports one day will come knocking for this.
yeah, I think if we get to where we're trying to, we can have a larger integration. But yeah, so we'll talk about that for a few hours, and then kind of work. We'll both just be working on whatever stuff we have to work on, like documenting stuff, or me making more adjustments to program the actual like AI program generator, and then he and I will do a lot of like whiteboarding sessions throughout the day, kind of talking about like a feature or do this. And then that goes till usually about, let's say 6 p.m. or so.
Yeah.
And then some days I'll go down and coach again from 6 to 8. And then other days I'll just stay and work until 7:30, and then we'll have a stand-up with the other developers. So the remote developers.
Where are they? Are they
So they'll be
on Zoom or something?
Yeah, they'll be on Zoom. So they'll jump on the call, and then it'll be like the morning for them. So then he'll talk to them, discuss with them, hey, what we need to do, where'd you guys get done?
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of converse again. And then I'm usually out by, let's say, 9 o'clock. So I'll go home at 9,
dude.
and then from 9 till...
So you get in at 7?
Yeah, so then 9 till, like, let's say 11 or midnight.
Yeah.
I'll get back on and catch up on remote programming and any other stuff. And so it's like, I do that.
I've not been on that level of grind for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not fun. I'll do that 7 days a week. The Sunday, maybe I don't go to the office, but I'll still be working most of the day.
So you're doing like easily like 15-hour days.
Yeah. Kush is doing the same. He might not be,
He doesn't do the coaching.
He doesn't do the coaching stuff, but he's doing even more mentally demanding stuff where he's like, designing stuff, and he's managing them too. So he's got a massive
That must be amazing
time
feel for
investment.
you to not be managing that team.
I wouldn't be, if he, for whatever reason, wasn't involved, it would be a different world. We wouldn't be sitting here. I'd probably have been like, I'd be a UPS driver.
Give it up by now. How did you find him?
I lucked out. So he was friends with a developer we have.
Yeah.
And he got laid off from...
he was friends. Yeah.
He got laid off from Meta.
Yeah.
And he was like...
Not because he was bad.
No. They laid off 12,000 people.
Yeah.
And he was in that group.
Yeah.
And he was like, I need a job to stay in the country. Because he's from India.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I saw it as like, oh, this will be cool. I was like, we can work together for a few months until you get recruited by some other company.
Yeah. But now he's so...
Well, so he came in.
He
came in the first day.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because he went in, and I didn't really know.
Did he know weightlifting?
He had done a meet, yeah. He had done a weightlifting meet, yeah. So that's how he knew Sean, our other developer. And he...
Does Sean come into the office?
Yeah, Sean comes in at the same time, yeah. He'll do other stuff, front-end stuff that Kush will have him do. But, he came in, and that first day, he was like, okay, here's what I see. And he wrote out this architecture, which was exactly what I was thinking. He's like, okay, we're going to use, like, it's kind of like someone wrote down, like, the sort of, like, business model. Like, here's the architecture for what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
And we've stuck to that since then. But it's like the first thing is like we're going to build an AI coach.
Yeah.
And what it's going to be is you're going to have a sort of like a manual coaching system first, like a platform where you do data collection. We take that data and we train some kind of like you'd call it like deep learning, but like, program generation, which is we build the logic for a program, like how does a training program operate, the parameters. We build all these modules that do each portion of it, kind of like 1.0, but very much expanded. Yeah. Then we take that and we stick it into an AI model. So the entire thing gets dumped in. It generates 1 million programs at a time. And then we can rate some of them, but also we can look at it and say optimize for this outcome. Yeah. And so it can take, like, you're basically creating the brain of how a program is built, and then giving that to an AI model to learn.
Yeah.
And then you iterate on that. So you got this like program generation that comes from data we learned from ourselves and from our own logic, but also from other coaches. Then he's like, we'll use, you know, some kind of vision, computer vision that can identify parts of the body and identify the lift and tell us what's right and wrong, and use that to inform the program generator how to make changes. So the person's doing this mistake. Use these exercises.
You wouldn't have believed, I mean, even like 4 years ago, you wouldn't have believed that this could even be possible.
No.
Because it almost wasn't.
Yeah.
The technology wasn't there.
Well, so then, and then the final piece, he's like, and then we'll use like a large language model, like a chat GPT, to speak to the people. So you have like logic, like specialized logic that only we have, which is coaching and training. And then we can make that into an AI model. Then we have this vision piece where we can train a computer to recognize what's going on. And then we have these language models that are super good at communicating like a person. And we combine all these, you know, with this manual coaching platform as well as a foundation, and you build the machine to collect data and turn it into great programming and great training. Smart. And he writes this all out. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, this is it. This is great. Yeah. It's too bad this guy's only going to be here for like a few months. Yeah. And he had been getting recruited by like the Tesla robotics team, and like he could easily have walked down the street to a much better job. Yeah. By orders of magnitude. But he was
like he wanted to be one of the main players in building something cool.
So that was something like here you have like Nick, where it's like when somebody has the opportunity, you could go to another job, but you'd be a cog in the wheel. Yeah. And
Nick can head up a department.
Yeah. Sort of like I never had that experience because I was always just doing whatever I was doing. Same with you, right? Like you're just kind of doing the thing you want to do. Yeah. But a lot of people have skills and abilities, and they get to a place where it's like you could do a lot with that, but you need a vehicle to take you there. Like you can't just like, and there's a million startups. You know, I think there's 1.5 million tech startups a year in Silicon Valley. Oof. That just don't go anywhere.
That's great.
And so you think about like you could do any of these things because they're all trying to do the biggest thing. What's the $1 billion unicorn idea that like, you know, it's an app that tells you if it's a hot dog or not or whatever, like just ridiculous stuff. And it was eye-opening to me to see somebody of that caliber who was like into this project. Yeah. And that was like, wow, this is cool. And then he kind of stuck around, and at some point he was like, pulled me aside and he's like, I want to like invest and want to buy in. Yeah. Like I want to like be here 100%.
Which is a great sign.
Yeah. Cause then I was like, for sure, 100%. Like this is exactly where I want to be. Cause this like, we work super well together. We don't ever butt heads. Yeah. We might disagree.
But you work it out.
And we voice our opinion, but it's much more a matter of like, what's the better choice right now? And it almost always comes down to like, why are we arguing? Like let other people figure this out. Let the users tell us what they want. So it's been super cool. Yeah.
It's kind of like, because what he sounds like he's amazing at is drawing out the structure of how this thing will work.
Yeah, very much.
It's kind of like you own the land and you have a vision of building a city. And then he is an amazing architect. Yeah. And he's designed, this is how the buildings will work. This is the levels. This is how the sewage will run.
Yeah, exactly.
This is how we make sure it works. Like, and then he's found the builders who then just make it. Yeah. And everyone's sort of reporting up.
Yeah, and it's literally like
really cool.
It's cool because like, he literally used the analogies like all the plumbing. We're building the plumbing now. Yeah. Like, okay, the plumbing's in place. Like, like you can think about what color you want the button to be or where things go, but like the more important thing is like how does the front end communicate with the back end, and how do we get the language model to do a query or whatever, and you're like, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying all the time,
100%,
but it's like I understand that you know where you're going. And he's also taken on he's kind of grown into this managerial role as well. He wasn't like that at Meta. He was higher up obviously, and he had managed people, but now he's like running it, and it's cool. It's been like a very intense experience for me because it's probably been the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah. Just being in this place, the stress is super high because you're like trying to keep things working and running, and like also knowing very well where you're not in your wheelhouse. Yeah. Like we're not capable of promoting and marketing. Yeah. Like, we don't have a brand. Yeah. We have a product and we have technology and we know things, but we're not in this place of like, you know, we don't have a 1 million person YouTube account where we can just drop something and be like, hey, buy this.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is cool because it's also like, if you did that, maybe you'd just be kind of like, here's a
rubbish product.
Yeah, here's another product. Here's another thing. Just sell it and we'll be done.
Agreed.
So it's been very cool. It's been very, very exciting. I would
love to come out and spend a bit of time.
You would like it a lot.
At the gym.
Yeah.
I like the old place, but like the new place sounds really cool.
It's so much better. We have the landlords we have are amazing, and they cut some windows into the office so I can be in the office and look down at the gym.
Oh, nice.
Which is like the perfect scenario for me. Yeah, I love it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a big journey.
Yeah.
It's a big journey, and I mean, we don't know exact dates for 2.0.
It's the most.
But it's worth reminding people, like, the current weightlifting AI is still amazing.
Yeah.
And if you haven't tried it, give it a go. But things are gonna just.
It's going to be a very interesting time because I think what we've done is position ourselves.
You've built it to allow all emerging technology to just raise it.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to rebuild it. It's there ready to take all of the improvements that you see in all AI.
You know that feeling like when you watch a video of like some new AI technology and you might get a little nervous because you're like, oh shit, what's this going to do?
You're pretty excited.
I have the other reaction where I'm like, this is awesome. We're going to be able to leverage this and put it into a product that's meaningful for people.
Yeah.
And so you have like, you know, some insane whatever model, that technology that can, you know, in real time talk with you. Like that'll be in our product.
Yeah.
And like we'll be in this place to like deliver this to people in a way that like is helpful and like is actually a really cool product for people. So I always see it as like, it's like we're building a surfboard trying to surf the wave.
Yeah.
We just have to like learn how to surf and make sure that like the wave isn't so big that it just crushes us.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're not just in the middle of the ocean paddling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely and I'm sure you've been in that spot too, where it's like, you're like not sure what's going to happen. Yeah. And that anxiety is kind of just like the unsure, like, you know, can we get there? And what's that next step going to look like? And where do we go?
I mean, one thing that I've not experienced riding a wave.
Yeah.
I don't think I've not noticed. I couldn't tell you if weightlifting is more popular now than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know.
It just feels like we're doing better and better to provide more value within weightlifting. But I haven't experienced, like, I can only imagine what it was like to be a chess YouTuber 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're talking about chess and you have like nobody listening. And then suddenly you've got 2 million subscribers and you're talking about chess.
Yeah.
Because chess just went crazy.
What was the TV show? The
Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, Queen's Gambit came out, right?
You know, so like something like that, like a real wave, I don't know what that's like. Or imagine if you had a jiu-jitsu gym 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it would have been insane.
Yeah.
We've not had that yet. I kind of live in hope that one day something happens in weightlifting. And maybe the reality is maybe we have to try and create the documentary for Netflix that does it. But if weightlifting gets really popular somehow, like CrossFit did or whatever, or powerlifting kind of has done, it just hasn't come to weightlifting. But I'd really enjoy doing nothing different and seeing things get bigger. Because people are just coming into the sport. I think
the reality might be that you are one of the biggest forces driving it forward.
Yeah.
Because I think about like the size of your following, like, because I'm you know, I'm inside a lot, but like I'm also like have an objective enough view of it to be like the quality of content and the level of like bringing the sport to people that Weightlifting House does is so much greater than anyone has done in the last, I mean, really probably ever. Like, I don't think there's ever been a level of exposure to top athletes in a way that is like, here's what's going on, here's documentaries about them, here's the commentary about the competition. Like, this has probably been the best, in my opinion, the single greatest like view into an entire quad that anyone's ever had.
Yeah.
Like, no other quad has had this much exposure to every meet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually. That's the thing that people forget is, you know, some people say, oh, you didn't have to used to pay to watch this. It's like, you couldn't you couldn't watch the Asian Championships.
You couldn't pay because there was nowhere to pay.
Yeah, there was actually no way to watch it.
There's nowhere to watch it.
Even the European Championships. So, lived in the USA.
Yeah.
You can watch the US.
No.
You can watch European
You
Championships.
could kind of find like a Eurosport.
A dodgy link.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but the thing is, Eurosport, you'd have to pay. You have to subscribe. It was like £10 a month.
And it was hard.
And it would be like,
was,
you'd have to pay for 3 months or something.
Yeah. And you'd watch, like, I remember maybe watching, I remember it was the Europeans, I remember Dmitry Berestov lifted. So I remember, what was it, 2019,
20. He did 21, I think.
No, I think it was way earlier.
Oh, sorry, Berestov. I was thinking of.
It was like, I want to say
like 2004.
Yeah, no, that was Olympics, so it was probably like 2008 or something.
I was thinking of Chumak for some reason when you said Berestov.
But where it's like, you're like, okay, I watched that on a website somewhere and like had no idea how I ended up there. Yeah. Someone else would have known and shared the link.
Yeah.
And now you're like,
it's just a bad feed.
Every single meet has been available at a, obviously, affordable price, but like it's been available. And on top of that, it's not just available, it's got a narrative that can be told and you can follow along. And like you think about the 73s and like that story leading up to that, like there's no other way you could convey the magnitude of that to people.
Yeah.
Because you could watch it on, Instagram and catch a glimpse of like who won it and be so out of the loop of what that story really is.
I almost feel like if I was I am a weightlifting fan, but if I wasn't at the comps, I would not, if I couldn't watch it live, I would avoid social media like the plague.
Yeah, because you're going
to
get spoiled.
I don't want to see what people have posted because I want to see it really happen.
You came in after Steiner, huh?
Yeah.
Lasha has just set a snatch world record.
Only just, but he does make it.
Red bar's now 184.